Well, 2010 has come and gone, and while there were a lot of sequels and way too much usage of 3D, there were a lot of films that I absolutely loved. So here's my top 10 of 2010. Before I tell you my top 10 films of 2010, I'd just like to say that these are my personal favorites. These are not the greatest filmmaking achievements of 2010. These are my personal favorite films of 2010. I did the best I could to order them. It was tough because I loved all of them so much that some of them were on the same level. But these are my personal favorites again, so if you say like, well, that is not the greatest film of 2010, no. It might not be the greatest film of 2010, but to me personally, these are my favorites. Also, some of these films you might say, well, that was in a film festival in 2009. That may be, but as long as it had its wide release or its major release in 2010, it's on my 2010 list. And the last thing that I'll say is if you'd like to see my full review of any of the films that I'm about to mention on my top 10 list, you can click anywhere on the video at any time to go check it out immediately, or if you'd like to watch the full video, you can click the links in the info to check out the reviews after you watch the whole thing. That being said, coming in at number 10 is Mercy. Mercy was written by Scott Caan, directed by Patrick Helk, and starred Scott Caan and Wendy Glenn. It was a beautiful romance, and it was a non-linear story which I loved, which is not common, I don't think, in romance, at least ones I've seen. And I thought it was such a beautiful movie, and I fell in love with it immediately after seeing it. It really affected me emotionally while watching it and afterward. It made me think a lot, and I just thought it was overall a really great film. Moving on to number 9, I chose Cyrus. Cyrus was an absolutely hilarious, in my opinion, comedy that I saw at Sundance 2010, and it stars Jonah Hill and John C. Reilly. I love both of them, specifically John C. Reilly. He's one of my favorite actors. So I was very excited for it, and I was not let down. I thought it was absolutely hysterical. I loved the film style, the filmmaking style, the cinematography, whatever you want to call it, by the Duplass brothers. I thought that they did such an excellent job. It was a non-conventional comedy, in my opinion, and I just love the quirky humor, I guess, and sort of the dry humor of it. So I definitely loved it. I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and it was definitely one of my favorite films of the year. Number 8, Blue Valentine. Blue Valentine is definitely not for everybody, not in my opinion at least. I thought it was fantastic, and someone else that saw it in the same, at the same screening as I did in the same film festival, they left the screening and I overheard them saying that they thought it was awful. So it's really not for everybody, obviously, but I think that it is a very raw and honest, the most raw and honest film that I think I've seen, but it's a very honest look at a deteriorating marriage between a couple played by Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, who were phenomenal, both of them. It honestly felt at times like I was peeking into real lives, and I thought that was incredible. Now, you know, the plot is, it's really kind of a, not an amazing plot, but it's really the acting that drives it easily, and just the realism to it, and I think it makes you think. And, you know, again, films like that make you think a lot, I love them, so Blue Valentine I thought was excellent. Moving on, number 7, I picked The Wild Hunt. The Wild Hunt is a Canadian independent film that I saw at the Gen Art Film Festival in NYC. I thought it was fantastic the first time I saw it. I was totally into it. It starts off a little slow, but it gets very intense, and it's just shocking, and the entire end of the film I just had my jaw wide open, my hand over my mouth, and I've watched it a few times and it never gets old for me. But again, this is one that's not for everybody because some other people I've showed it to didn't care for it, and one person hated it. They couldn't stand it. So, I mean, it's obviously not for everyone, but I think that it is a very original, unique film, and I loved it. At number 6 is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I read all of the comics before the film came out, so I knew, you know, what the story was and everything, even though it changed a little bit. But it was one of the most unique films that I've ever seen. And, you know, it really kind of changed the game, I think, for video game style movies, because it was very video game style, obviously. But I thought that Edgar Wright did a fantastic job with it. It basically hit the mark, hit the nail right on the head. All of the Scott Pilgrim fans were very happy. I was very happy. And I thought it was a great time. The humor was fantastic. The acting was great. Everyone was just literally, I thought it was pitch perfect. Exactly what needed to be made in regards to the series of graphic novels. And it was just, you know, it really was a game changer. So I think it had it's going to have a big effect on films, similar films that come out, and it was just, it was a really great and hilarious movie. At number 5 is Toy Story 3. This one made me cry. I've been waiting forever for Toy Story 3. I could not have been anticipating it more. My expectations were high, and I'm very happy to say that it far surpassed my expectations. I loved it. It was the greatest Toy Story film out of the three, easily, and it just perfectly summed up an amazing trilogy that I've been following since I was a little kid. So, you know, I've grown up with these movies, and it was just a beautiful film. Lee Unkrich did an amazing job with it. Everything about it was fantastic. It was perfect. Basically 100% perfect. For animated toys to make me get so emotionally involved and make me so happy and sad at the same time, and just make me feel so many strong emotions is incredible to me. So Toy Story 3 was easily one of my favorites of 2010. At number 4 is Inception. Inception was one of the most highly anticipated films of 2010, easily. Everyone was looking forward to it, everyone was excited, and it delivered. Visually amazing, the plot was amazing, everything about it was fantastic. You know, I mean, I loved it, I thought it was fantastic. It wasn't my top favorite of the year, obviously, but I did think it was excellent. I love that it was kind of open-ended, and, you know, everyone was talking about it. People are still talking about it. You say you saw Inception, you mention Inception, and people immediately ask you, so what do you think happened with this and that? And everyone's still talking about it, so that is a feat in my opinion. Christopher Nolan is on a roll. He is definitely one of the best in Hollywood right now, with a string of excellent films, and Inception was no different. Number 3, Black Swan. This movie made me freak out. This movie got into my head while watching it. Natalie Portman was absolutely incredible as Nina, and Darren Aronofsky did just an amazing job of making you really feel like you were Nina, like you were going crazy, like what's going on? Is this real? Did I actually see that? He did an incredible job. It was like you were living the movie while watching it. It gets your heart racing, and just it was just fantastic. The acting was great. Like I said, Natalie Portman was fantastic, and I just got so into it, and I absolutely loved Black Swan. Number 2 and number 1 were very close, but number 2 is The Social Network. The Social Network is amazing, in my opinion. I thought it was absolutely incredible. The script, oh my god, I've read the script a couple of times, and it is just unbelievable. It's like riding a roller coaster just by reading it, so when you actually hear them saying all the words in the script, it's like you're really on a roller coaster, and that's very strange for the type of movie that it is, to feel like you're on a roller coaster, in my opinion. But that's how I feel watching it. I absolutely loved it. The acting was excellent. Andrew Garfield I thought was the best. Of course, Jesse Eisenberg was great too. But just everything about it, David Fincher's directing, the look of it with the red cameras, just everything about it was amazing. It was beautiful visually, and it was just, you know, easily right neck and neck for my number 1 favorite of the year in 2010, but my number 1 favorite has to be Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass was amazing. It was my favorite film of 2010. I knew as soon as I saw it, as soon as I sat there, as the credits rolled, and I was just in awe of what I had seen, wiping away some tears maybe, because it was just so amazing that I was so happy, and it was just unbelievable. I think that they did an amazing job with it. I know it's not, you know, critically acclaimed. I mean, a lot of people absolutely loved it, but it wasn't, you know, it's not winning awards and stuff like crazy anywhere left and right, but I really think that it deserves more recognition than it got, you know, just by people that saw it. I think that it deserves a lot more recognition because it changed the game, I think, for superhero movies, because it was just so action-packed and epic, and, you know, it was a whole different twist on the superhero genre, but still a superhero movie, and just overall, everything about it made me so happy and so inspired, and Matthew Vaughn did an amazing job doing that. And it was easily my favorite film of 2010. Heck, I saw it 4 times in theaters before it was even released in theaters, so figure that out. I loved it. I saw it more times in theaters than anything else I think ever in my life because I loved it so damn much. I can't get enough of it, and I just thought it was fantastic. But The Social Network, which, like I said, came in a very close second, I've watched that a ton of times too in theaters and on DVD, so those were very, very close. And that's my top 10 films of 2010. I don't know if any of them are surprising, or if you knew what was coming. I'm sure Kick-Ass, I'm sure you guys knew what was coming with Kick-Ass, because you know I loved it. But that's my top 10 films, and I would like to also give honorable mention to a few other films that didn't make my top 10 list, and I have a reason why for one of them. It should have made my list, I'll explain in a minute. The other ones just, you know, they were excellent, I loved them, but they kind of missed the mark because there were other ones that I loved more. So I'd like to start off with Brotherhood. Brotherhood technically is a 2011 release, and that's the only reason it didn't make my top 10 list. It would have probably been in the top 5 or just under the top 5, but it's a 2011 release, so I'm pretty sure it'll make my 2011 top 10 films. So that's the only reason it's not on the list. It's 2011. 12, I loved the film 12 by Joel Schumacher, and one reason that I loved it so much is because it was the first film that I ever saw at Sundance, which was the first time I ever went to a film festival. I went on a whim, and it was the first thing I saw there, and it blew me away, and I was like, this is, you know, what I've been missing. Films like this. I thought it was fantastic visually, more so than anything else. It wasn't very, you know, critically acclaimed or anything. Not a lot of people loved it, I don't think, but I thought it was excellent. And it really inspired me just because, like I said, it was the first thing I saw at Sundance, my first film festival. Buried, also saw that at Sundance. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was ballsy. And I love that they really just, you know, had the guts to make this film and have Ryan Reynolds, be in a box for 90 minutes and that's it. No cutaways to anything else, no flashbacks, nothing. I thought that was excellent. And similarly, 127 Hours is about a person just in one spot for a long time, you know, played by James Franco, of course. You know, I compared them just because they're similar in the sense that it's, you know, they're trapped in one spot. But I think Buried, you know, they had the balls to do just a box for 90 minutes, whereas 127 Hours was a bit more mainstream, with flashbacks, cutaways, visions, hallucinations, stuff like that. I loved them both. I thought the performances were great in both of them. And, you know, those two were very close to making the list. I thought they were great. The Fighter was excellent. It didn't make my list because as much as I loved it, again, I loved some other films more, but I thought that was just such a solid film, such a great, simple film. Like, it was just, I mean, there really is nothing to nitpick for me. It's just such a great film. And that's all it is. It's just great. So I know, you know, I don't know if you understand what I mean by that, that I don't even feel like I need to say anything else about it because it's just like, you know, that's it. It's a great, perfect little film. But that's how I felt about it, and I thought it was great. It just missed my list, but I definitely thought that it was one of the best of the year. And the last film that I'll mention for 2010 is Exit Through the Gift Shop, which is a documentary. It starts out as a documentary about Banksy, and then flips itself on its head and becomes a documentary about the person making the documentary. So I thought it was great. I really loved it because I learned a lot while watching it about street art. I love that it was, you know, you don't know really, is it real, is it not real? Everyone has their opinions about it. That's not what this, my discussion about it right now is about. But just the fact that it was, you know, it was tricky, it flipped itself on its head halfway through or whatever, a little bit into it. And again, like I said, I learned a lot. And I love learning, you know, it's all good. So I definitely loved Exit Through the Gift Shop for that reason. It was a lot of fun. And overall, that's my list. 2010, I thought it was a pretty good year. I had some great films that I loved, some of my favorite films, you know, in general over my lifetime. And I was very happy. I saw a lot of great stuff. The films that I was excited for pretty much were what I was expecting, if not better. And we had the end of Toy Story, which was excellent. We had Kick-Ass, Social Network, Inception. I'm not going to go through the whole damn list again. I just realized I'm listing all the films again. But overall, thought 2010 was a good year. Those are my top 10 and some honorable mentions. Let me know in the comments what your top 10 films of 2010 were. Let me know what you think of my list. Like I said, I understand, you know, or I hope you understand that this is my personal favorites, not the necessarily greatest films of 2010, because some were better than what I listed, but they were my personal favorites. Let me know what you thought of my list. Let me know if you agree with anything, disagree with anything, you know, civilly. I'm very much looking forward to 2011 and beyond because it's just, I just get so excited about films. So I'm excited for the future. Had a great time in 2010 at the movies, but let's get less 3D, please. And that's pretty much it.